a crafty little video. This is for sure. Sit back and enjoy wood burning and more.
Today on Wood Burning More, we are going to Ferris State University for the dedication of my dad's needlework.
Specifically this building. What I wanted to say is that as I have been here the past 2 years, and really just in the past few months as I've circulated campus and we were planning the event that Susie and her dad have made possible, it was amazing to me to hear the stories from all corners of the university about Ray and the way he touched individuals and touched our campus. So today we're going to celebrate a colleague, a mentor, a friend, and a father. Ray graduated from Dearborn High School in 1958 and then attended Henry Ford Community College where he earned an Associate's of Arts degree. He then went on to Western Michigan University for a short period until he joined the Army between 1960 and 61. He left Western Michigan to join the Army. He was in the Army from 61 to 64, and during that time he was trained in cryptography and teletype while he was stationed at Fort Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. I have to imagine the weather there was a lot like this past winter here. After the Army, Ray returned to Dearborn and found some pretty interesting work at the Ford Michigan truck plant in Wayne. And during that time, he also returned to school. And in 1967, he completed a bachelor's degree, and then a year later, his master's degree in library science in 1968, both of those degrees from Western Michigan University. I have to think that if there had been a library science degree at Ferris, it would have been a better fit for Ray. Because immediately after earning his degree in library science, he joined Ferris State University, and he spent 38 outstanding years here. And he held many different jobs and wore so many hats. He was a reference librarian, catalog librarian, math and census librarian, patent and trademark depository librarian. He was the chair of promotion and tenure committees. He served on the academic senate, and in 2004 he received the Student Affairs Staff Appreciation Award. He wrote a number of books, and he was editor of the Michigan Academic Libraries Directory in 1987. And between 1986 and 88, he was the editor of the MLA-CRL, which is a newsletter, a professional newsletter of the College and Research Libraries Division of the Michigan Library Association. So just a couple other highlights about Ray. He served as a faculty advisor to Alpha Phi Omega, which is a social fraternity, and that was between 85 and 92. And Ray and his wife, Susie's mom, Rosemary, were members of the Ferris President's Club and the Old Main Society. Ray retired from Ferris in 2006. So the folks that know about Ray's artwork, you know that some of it is in a local bakery downtown, which I didn't know. But like Ray, I'm known to frequent that establishment, and that consists sometimes of my meal for the day. I also learned this evening that Ray and I also apparently are kind of folks that spend a lot of our time chatting with folks at local breakfast establishments. And I asked some folks today, how did you know Ray? And they said, well, I knew him because I helped serve him breakfast at Bob Evans. So today we're going to celebrate Ray, and we're going to honor him through the installation of some of his artwork. But here's what I think today's really about. While we're going to see some of his beautiful artwork, I think maybe what's truly fantastic isn't the piece that we're going to unveil. It's what it reflects, and it's what we're here commemorating tonight, and that is the way that Ray brought people together and the way that he modeled and gave charitably. So with that, I want to just kind of talk about the sequence of events, which is I'm going to turn things over here in a second to our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Paul Blake. And following that, we're going to introduce Ray's daughter, Susie, to share some remarks. And then we've asked some of his colleagues at the library, Assistant Dean of the library, Leah Monger, and Professor and Librarian David Scott, to share some remarks. Following that, and provided those I don't know if you know this, sometimes librarians and administrators can wax on for a long time, but provided there's time, we'd like to open it up if there are others that would like to give some remarks about Ray. So I'm sharing that now so that you can mentally prepare some of those remarks. Or if you have your phone, maybe you can start to text yourself a message of what those remarks might be. But we'd like to reserve some time for those of you who'd like to come forward and share some thoughts about Ray. At 5:30, we will head downstairs for the unveiling of Ray's needlepoint. So with that, Dr. Paul Blake.
Thank you, Jason, and good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I have two really distinct memories of Ray. One is kind of a general memory, and that is always, regardless of where you saw him on campus, he would immediately cross a room, his hand was out, the smile was on his face, and then he began to talk about the most recent thing that he was involved with relative to the arts in Big Rapids, or just simply how are you doing, and he truly wanted to know. The second one is something that worries me now, because I have a feeling maybe there's some hidden cache of stock in Bob Evans. But it seems that Andy Cantor and I would have lunch regularly once a week at Bob Evans, and I'll bet you out of a month, 3 out of those 4 weeks, we would sit down, we would be eating, and there's a tap on either Andy's shoulder or mine, and of course, it's Ray. And the conversation would begin immediately in terms of, again, the arts, what he was participating in, what he was doing, and always, how are you doing, how are you, and what's going on with you. Ray, without doubt, gave to each of us in this room a lasting imprint on our minds, and I think our hearts as well, in terms of who he was, and what the university meant to him. The gift you give us today, Susie, does nothing but validate that imprint for us. I have to admit that I sneaked a peek on the way up here, and as I looked under the linen or the cloth, it was amazing to realize that suddenly I was just smiling, and it was like a tap on the shoulder. It was like him crossing the room one more time. So on behalf of the university, I thank you for this gift and what it means to each of the individuals in this room personally, and what it means to the university in general, for a man who gave great, passionate contributions to this university. And with that, I think it's very fitting you have a few words about you, Bob. Thank you.
So, as you know, I am Ray's daughter, Susie, and I just don't know what to say about him, except for that he loved Ferris. I was basically brought up in the library. I mean, I know most of you guys here. I've been knowing you forever. So he loved working with everybody here. He loved helping the students. We had exchange students that went to school with me. We had hosted the foreign students that are at Ferris over the breaks just to help them out. And he even was helping the pharmacy students, being their guinea pig, up until he passed away. He also loved doing needlework, any type of needlework. I had so much of his needlework in my house, I didn't even know where to put it. We built a little tiny house, and I had to move all my artwork out there just to store his in my main house. Plus all the stuff to make this, my basement's full, I'm sorry. So he did regular needlepoint like like this one. He did long stitch and cross stitch, and he donated many of his pieces to friends, family, and different establishments here in Big Rapids, Grand Rapids, and even other countries around the world. So this piece right here brings the love for the library and his love for his needlework together, in my opinion, and I thought it would be fitting for it to be here, where he hoped to be. Thank you.
Susie, Maud Bigford, who was the first director of the honors program, really wanted to be here, but she is in Colorado watching her grandchildren. But she sent some remarks, and I told her I would do my best to convey them. So this is from Maud Bigford. In loving memory of Ray Dickinson, the man who couldn't stop helping. After I got to know Ray well, I kidded him about being my ray of sunshine and my ray of light. But both of us knew that he really was. Since the very inception of the honors program, Ray was at my side. He was one of the very few who believed in the concept of honors and that it was needed at Ferris. There were many naysayers in 1996 when I was hired at the behest of the Vice President of Academic Affairs to create an honors program. Folks didn't believe it would work and that it would not endure past the first year. Of such programs, I knew almost nothing, and this is when Ray proved invaluable. In reading the existing literature on the how and why of honors and how to create it, it became clear that I needed library support. And that's where Ray came in. Ray was the librarian who was the most interested. He was a great seeker, and he provided me with a volume of research about honors programs across the country. Together, the two of us sat down and crafted the honors mission statement. I had worked for 1 year on a mission statement for the university, but I had 6 months to do it with honors. Not a problem with Ray. He was the first one to volunteer to help me to create a mission, to drive the whole operation forward and to keep us focused. He allocated about 7 days of intense scrutiny to the mission statement and realized we could get this done together. He was concerned about the good of the order, enhancing the academic experience of the next generation, and was looking ahead to the challenges that we needed to be prepared for so that we could motivate the tribe. We were like-minded in objectives, but vastly different in our skill sets. Each time I worked with him, I realized even more how important he was for the success of so much, because he was so detailed, and many of us were just big picture thinkers, and we really needed each other. Honors needed Ray. His dedication to the cause, belief in the mission, and hardworking nature served as a catalyst for me personally. We were completely united by the same vision, and neither of us feared hard work. We were energized by the work. Over the years, Ray never missed the Honors Council meetings and always came with ideas related to the agenda. He respectfully listened, and he encouraged students, even when they were 2 of 10, and the 10 was made up of faculty, to be as engaged as possible. When he discovered one of the building blocks of successful honors programs was a library in each honors hall, he donated hundreds of books from his home library. And when President Eisler dedicated the Helen Ferris Honors Hall, Ray was instrumental in providing photos, memorabilia, and stories about Helen's life. When the honors libraries were created, we always hosted an afternoon tea in each hall where Ray was the guest of honor. When students were confounded in their library searches, we always sent them to Ray, who was dogged in looking for all the answers. On more occasions than I can count, he wrote substantial checks, financial checks, to honors to enhance the programs and the experience we could create for students. So I hope you can all see he was tireless in giving of his support, and he continues that even today. And it's easy to acclaim that this man had nothing but a giving heart. Maud Bigford. Stop doing that. Come on, Rodney. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dave. I worked with Ray starting in 2001, so I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about Ray and Rosie a little bit as well, if I may. So when I started back in 2001, right after the building opened, we had a lot of new librarians here at the time, and so a lot of the tenured librarians had to be on many, many tenure committees, which is kind of how it works here in the library. And as Ray is a giving person, he served on my committee, so appreciate him for that. He was not selected as the chair of the committee. That was Richard Carrick, who was the chair of my committee at the time. Richard had to take a medical leave kind of during the process of the tenure process. It's a 5-year process. So Ray stepped up and took over the chair of the tenure committee, which is a big task because he was probably on like 6 or 7 tenure committees at the time. So I really appreciate that. It was very beneficial for me as I'm still here and I did get tenure. And he helped me navigate through some of the difficulties of that process, so I really appreciate that. Couldn't have done it without him. So he was a very, very capable chair. He helped me grow in my profession, so I appreciate that. Rosemary, his wife, worked at the middle school and the library. I don't remember her exact title over at the middle school, but I have an autistic son who was at the middle school, and he often had to take exams in the library for one of his accommodations. And so Rosemary kind of took him under her wing and really would follow him around and ask how he was doing when I saw her later. Even when he was graduated from high school, she would ask him, "Oh, how's Jeremy doing?" So very caring individuals. So both of them extremely caring, always looking out for others, not themselves, which I thought was a wonderful thing. So when I pass this work in the stairwell, which I probably will do frequently, several times a day, I will remember both their kindness and generosity. And I thank the family for this donation and for the legacy that has been left here. So thank you very much.
Tall people over here. Hi, I'm Leah Munger. I'm the assistant dean here in FLITE. Ray was on a trip to Japan in July of 1997 when I came here to interview for a department head position. So I didn't meet Ray until I started working here in October of that year. Ray was an acting department head at that time, and he appointed himself to be my official mentor. Ray knew nearly everyone at Ferris and most of the population of Mecosta County. And he made a point of introducing me to everyone he knew. Ray was genuinely interested in every person as a unique individual. He was as well acquainted with secretaries, groundskeepers, construction workers, and restaurant wait staff as he was with Ferris faculty and administrators and prominent people in the Big Rapids community. Because he was such a regular customer and knew all the other regulars, he was known as the mayor of Big Boy by the staff at that restaurant. And he got special tours of this building while it was under construction because he got to know all of the construction crew. During his years at Ferris, Ray acted as a formal and informal mentor to many new faculty, staff, and students. Ray was all about making people feel welcome on this campus, and he made a point of greeting anyone who was new to the Ferris community and doing whatever he could to set them up for success. Ferris had been good to him, and he wanted everyone else to have the same positive experience that he had enjoyed with the university. He embraced everyone, regardless of their race, ethnicity, religion, politics, or other differences. He was insatiably curious about other people, and he took the time to talk with them to gain a better understanding of those differences and to discover commonalities. Ray forged a special relationship with international students who came to Ferris to study. He and his wife Rosemary hosted several international students in their home, and they considered many of those students to be unofficial adopted family members. Ray and Rosemary traveled overseas to attend the weddings of former international students, and when those international adoptees had children, they displayed baby photos and shipped gifts for birthdays and holidays, just as if they were their own grandchildren. In his spare time, Ray was always doing needlework. He did beautiful and meticulous work. Several years ago, I gave Ray a counted cross-stitch gift as a gift for some occasion. I don't remember whether it was his birthday or for Christmas. Several months later, he returned the completed and very nicely framed needlework to me as a gift. That framed piece has hung in my living room for close to 15 years, and I think of Ray every time I walk by it. Ray dedicated himself to the students, faculty, and staff of this institution, and he was passionate about contributing to the success of everyone he encountered here at Ferris. I am so pleased that we now have a lovely memento here in FLITE in tribute to a man who embraced the philosophy of Woodbridge Ferris to make the world better and to provide educational opportunity to all those seeking knowledge.
The more I think of it, Pierre Marquette's been wonderful, but I kind of feel like we should have asked either Big Boy or one of the local restaurants if they could have catered a breakfast. Would have been fine, right? We want to offer the opportunity, I mentioned it before, for those of you who would like to come forward and share some thoughts about Ray.
Jason, I make some comments about Ray. This is such an interesting room, you have to get to a corner for people to be able to say, But first, thank you for being here to celebrate Ray today. I think each of us in this room were touched by him. And to think about the way that we were touched by him is really extraordinary. I joined Ferris in 2003. Ray reached out to me. I got to know him really well. I think that's more a reflection on Ray than it is on me. But I was always just fascinated by the keen intellect that he brought to the work that he did, the way that he had this great enthusiasm for everything he did. And you know, one of the reasons I wanted to say something is he always was talking about the list of Ferris employees that he had made to me and how he compiled that. And so I think he knew everyone who ever worked at Ferris. Was kind of my impression of him. And I was so pleased to hear Maud's comments because I didn't understand what that relationship was with honors, but I know that he cared a lot about honors. When I knew him, I think he was our government documents librarian, and that was what he took care of. And you know, I think Ray had a passion for everything he did. And you know, we're going to welcome students back tomorrow on our campuses when they start moving in. And what we're going to tell our students is the most important part about going to college is getting engaged. And I think there's really no better example of a person who became engaged in our university than Ray. So you know, it's great to see all of you here, and it's great to celebrate his memory. And the gift will, you know, we'll think of him every time. I think of him often as I walk the campus, but when I see this beautiful work that he did, we'll remember it. Thank you so much for being here.
They don't have to be prepared remarks in a formal sense if there's something you would like to share.
My wife's sister, her husband was in the Navy, graduated from Indianapolis. His father was also in the Navy. He became an admiral, and his name was William Eddy. And he said, I don't like the name of Admiral Eddy. He says, Captain Eddy sounds better. So the point that I'm going to make here is the fact that Captain Eddy and his son and his brother-in-law has done several patents. And Ray got interested in those patents. He came out with a list about this amount of the different patents that the Eddies had come up with. But that is our experience with Ray. We go to a donut shop down here. But on a lighter side, Ray really wore colorful socks.
Anyone else have any remarks they would like to make? We will we'll absolutely think of Ray and see visibly his contribution in the form of the needlepoint to remind us of the things that he contributed in the many lives that he touched. I want to share one last thing. So in preparation for today, a lot of Ray's stories and things that maybe folks don't know about Ray started to come to the surface. And here's one that I think most people don't know. We've recently been having conversations about with architects about the library and space usage, and in those discussions, part of the review process involved me working with our interim CIO, Ralph Williams. And in the conversations with IT and digital signage, what came to light is that up until just a few years ago, Ray had been maintaining a list of all of the university employees that were veterans of any branch of the military. And the idea was to make sure that that integrated database was available so that we could stay connected and honor those who have defended our freedoms. And I don't know how many people knew that. So the question behind the scenes is, what are we going to do with that database?
I have it at my house.
So I think what has really special, Susie, is we've learned, at least I've learned from these stories about a man that I didn't meet that I wish I had. And we are so fortunate that you've made today possible, and we're going to look forward to that unveiling. And so I know I said 5:30. We don't want to restrict the ability for folks to share stories and enjoy some fellowship, but we are going to move now, and we're going to do the unveiling a little bit earlier than planned, so that folks can come up and continue to have some food and continue to talk about and celebrate Ray. So why don't we take about 10 minutes, and those folks that would like to be part of the unveiling, we will meet down in the foyer in the main, what would be the south main entrance of the library, right by the double doors, to do the unveiling. So we'll see you in about 10 minutes downstairs. So before we do the unveiling, I just a couple of notes. The piece has been hung for tonight, and just so everybody knows, and so Susie knows, we will have to, like anything in the library, you have these fancy kind of, almost like a prison metal detector devices here. So we will be putting security tags and kind of reapplying this later. And the second is, because it wasn't ready in time, there is a biography sketch of Ray that will also appear next to the piece. So with that, I want to invite Susie to unveil her father's work.
Now, I will tell you one thing about this piece. It took him 20 years. Wow. It's not because he was working on it straight for 20 years. And if you look at some of the colors, they're really close. And you could only work on it just with natural lighting. Otherwise, he'd get fed up and throw it in the closet. So. Thank you, Susie.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. For exclusive content, go to our Facebook page.
It's a crafty little video, this is for sure. Sit back and enjoy wood burning and more.